What if your body has been trying to warn you this whole time and you didn't even notice? Not the obvious alarms like pain or injury. I'm talking about quiet, almost invisible signals your body sends every day that most people shrug off as stress, aging, or just a bad day. Your body never goes from perfectly healthy to seriously unwell overnight. It whispers first. Small changes in energy, appetite, breathing, digestion, even the way you think. These are the kinds of subtle clues that show up long before anything dramatic happens. Most people ignore them, thinking they'll pass, when in reality, these could be early warnings of something far deeper. It is time to start listening to what your body is actually saying. Now think about this for a second. How many times have you felt something just a little off in your body, only to tell yourself it would go away on its own, or that you were just too busy to care? That's exactly how small problems become big ones, because many health conditions develop silently, and by the time the symptoms are obvious, it's often much harder to treat. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 silent signs your body may be in serious danger. Warnings that show up early, quietly, and without pain, yet reveal a lot about what's really happening inside you. And right now, some of these might be happening to you without you realizing they matter. Stick with me until the end, because the final signs most people overlook completely, and they could be the ones that make all the difference early on. Now, the first silent sign we're going to talk about is something most people actually celebrate, and that's exactly why it's dangerous: losing weight. Because on the surface, it feels like a win. You look in the mirror, your clothes fit better, the number on the scale drops, and your first thought is this is a good thing. But here's what most people don't realize. When weight loss happens without effort, your body is not rewarding you, it's warning you. Let me explain what I mean by that. Unexplained weight loss is when your body starts dropping pounds without any intentional change. No new diet, no increased exercise, no calorie restriction. Not yet the scale keeps going down. And medically, even a loss of about 5% of your body weight over a few months without trying is considered a red flag. Now pause for a second and think about this. Has that ever happened to you? Clothes getting looser, but you didn't really change anything. Because here's the part most people completely overlook. Your body does not lose weight randomly ever. There is always a reason, and sometimes that reason is hidden beneath the surface. It could be something relatively manageable, like hormonal imbalances, thyroid issues, or metabolic changes. But in other cases, it can be something more serious. Conditions that affect how your body absorbs nutrients, or even illnesses that increase how much energy your body burns without you realizing it. And this is where people make a critical mistake. They wait. They assume, I feel fine, so it must be fine. But here's the truth. Your body often shows signs before you feel symptoms. Weight loss can be one of the earliest clues, long before pain, fatigue, or anything obvious shows up. So, if you notice your weight dropping without a clear reason, and it keeps going, don't just brush it off as luck. That's the moment to stop and ask, why is this happening? Because catching the cause early can make all the difference. And stick with me here, because the next sign we're about to talk about is even easier to ignore. Something people experience all the time and rarely take seriously. But when it doesn't go away, it can mean something much deeper is going on. And now, not all warning signs come with pain. Some show up as something so common that people ignore it completely. A fever that just won't go away. At first, it doesn't seem like a big deal. You feel a little warm, maybe slightly off, and you think it's probably nothing. It'll pass. And most of the time that's true. But here's where it gets dangerous. When a fever lingers, even a mild one, your body may be dealing with something it hasn't been able to resolve. Let me explain. A fever is your body's natural defense system. It raises your temperature to fight off infections. That's normal. That's healthy. But here's what most people don't realize. A fever is supposed to go away. So when it doesn't, when it quietly sticks around for days or even over a week, that's no longer just your body doing its job. That's your body struggling to finish the job. Now pause for a second and think about this. Have you ever felt slightly warm, slightly tired, just a bit off, but not sick enough to worry? That's exactly how this sign hides. Because a persistent fever doesn't always hit you hard. It doesn't always come with chills or severe symptoms. Sometimes it's just a low-grade temperature that keeps showing up day after day, and you slowly start ignoring it. But behind the scenes, something else may be going on. It could be a lingering infection your body hasn't cleared. It could be inflammation building quietly. In some cases, it may even be linked to deeper conditions affecting your immune system or metabolism. And this is where most people make a critical mistake. They wait for it to get worse. They think if it was serious, I'd feel worse. But that's not always how the body works. Sometimes the earliest signs are the quietest ones. So if you notice a fever that doesn't improve after several days, especially without a clear reason, like a cold or flu, that's your moment to pay attention, not delay. Catching the cause early is always easier. And stick with me here because the next sign we're about to talk about is something even more subtle. something people often blame on getting older or being out of shape, when in reality, it can be a much bigger warning than they realize. Let's move on to a symptom that most people underestimate until it starts affecting their daily life: shortness of breath. Because here's the thing, breathing is supposed to be effortless. You don't think about it, you don't notice it, it just happens. So the moment you do notice your breathing, that something has already changed, and that's where this becomes dangerous. Now yes, getting out of breath after a workout or running upstairs, that's normal. But here's what most people ignore. When simple everyday activities start leaving you breathless, that's not fitness, that's a signal. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked a short distance, climbed a few steps, and suddenly felt like you needed to stop and catch your breath? You know, even though you shouldn't have to. That moment right there, that's where this sign begins. Because what you're feeling isn't just tiredness, it's what doctors call dyspnea, the sensation that you're not getting enough air even when you're breathing. And here's the part most people don't realize. Your body doesn't struggle for air without a reason. Behind the scenes, your heart and lungs are constantly working together, delivering oxygen and removing carbon dioxide. And when something interferes with that process, even slightly, your brain picks up on it. That's when you feel it. That tightness, that effort, that subtle sense of something isn't right. And here's where it gets serious. Shortness of breath can develop slowly, so slowly that people start adjusting their life around it without realizing it. They take the stairs less. They walk slower. They avoid exertion. They adapt instead of questioning it. But that gradual change can be linked to underlying conditions, ranging from lung issues like asthma or chronic disease, to heart problems, anemia, or even anxiety-related responses. And this is where most people make a critical mistake. They blame it on age, they blame it on being out of shape, and they move on. But here's the truth. If your breathing has changed, your body is trying to tell you something, especially if it's happening during activities that used to feel easy, or if it comes with things like chest tightness, dizziness, or unusual fatigue. That's not something to ignore. That's something to investigate, because the earlier you understand what's causing it, the easier it is to deal with. And stay with me here, because the next sign we're about to talk about is something even more overlooked. Something people avoid talking about entirely, but it can reveal a lot about what's happening inside your body. Now we're getting into a sign that people avoid talking about, ignore completely, or just feel too uncomfortable to take seriously: changes in your bowel habits. And that discomfort, that hesitation, that's exactly why this one gets missed, because no one wants to pay attention to it. But here's the truth. Your gut is one of the first places your body shows that something isn't right, and it doesn't do it loudly. It does it through patterns, subtle changes, small shifts, things that are easy to brush off. Let me explain what I mean. Everyone has a normal when it comes to digestion. How often you go, how it feels, what it looks like. And that normal is different for everyone. But here's where it gets important. The moment your normal changes without a clear reason, that's a signal. Now pause for a second. Have you ever noticed your bathroom routine changing and just blamed it on food, stress, or one of those days? That's exactly how this sign hides, because it doesn't show up dramatically. It shows up as going less often, or suddenly more often, stool that looks different, darker, lighter, thinner, constipation that lingers, diarrhea that keeps coming back, or that strange feeling like you're never fully done. And here's what most people don't realize. These patterns matter more than single events. One bad day, not a big deal, but changes that stick around, that's different. Because persistent shifts in bowel habits can be linked to underlying issues, from digestive disorders and infections to inflammatory conditions, and in some cases even more serious problems affecting the colon. And this is where people make a mistake that costs them time. They wait for something worse to happen. They think if it was serious, it would hurt more. But that's not how this works. Some of the most important warning signs don't come with pain, they come with change. And your digestive system is incredibly sensitive to those changes. So if your bowel habits have shifted and they're not going back to normal after days or weeks, that's not something to ignore. That's something to investigate, because catching the cause early is always easier than dealing with it later. And stay with me here, because the next sign we're about to talk about doesn't affect your stomach at all. It affects your mind, and it's one of the most overlooked warning signals your body can give you. Now we're going into an invisible sign. I'm talking about changes in your thinking, memory, and personality. Your brain's way of saying something is not right behind the scenes. Most people brush off forgetfulness as normal stress. Oh, I forgot because I'm busy, or I just had a bad night's sleep. But here's what most people don't realize. True cognitive changes are not just random forgetfulness. They are a sign your brain is struggling to function the way it used to. Let's pause for a second and think about this. Have you ever had a moment where you couldn't focus, lost track of a simple thought, or found yourself struggling to remember something you used to recall easily? That's the line between ordinary distraction and something deeper. Genuine confusion shows up as a constant inability. Genuine confusion shows up as a constant inability to think clearly, make decisions, or keep track of what's happening around you. Not just forgetting a name or where you left your keys. And it doesn't stop there. Your personality can change too. Even before you consciously notice anything unusual, someone who was always calm might become irritable without reason. Or someone who was social might suddenly withdraw into themselves. These aren't just mood swings. They can be early indicators of disrupted brain function that shouldn't be ignored. Here's something most people miss. Personality and cognitive shifts often happen long before other symptoms become obvious. In conditions like mild cognitive impairment, changes in mood, judgment, and behavior can show up years before memory loss becomes severe. Let me ask you this. Have your friends or family ever asked you, "You're not acting like yourself lately?" That kind of comment might feel harmless in the moment, but it's exactly when you should pay attention. Because while occasional off days are part of life, a consistent drift in thinking or behavior without a clear reason is not something your brain does for no reason. Now, many things can affect your brain function: dehydration, sleep problems, hormones, even infection. And while some causes are treatable, others may require deeper investigation. Sudden or severe changes in cognition or personality, especially if they appear out of nowhere, can signal underlying medical conditions that need professional attention. So if you've noticed that your thinking isn't sharp, pay attention. If you're finding it harder to focus or remember things, or if people around you are saying you're acting differently, don't shrug it off. That's one of those silent signals your body and brain are begging you to pay attention to. And stick with me here, because in the next section we're going to talk about a silent sign that affects something everybody does multiple times a day. Something people almost never associate with serious health problems until it's too late. Now we're going to talk about a symptom that almost everyone writes off because it feels harmless, but in reality it can be one of the sneakiest silent signs your body is in trouble. Feeling full too soon while eating. That moment when you sit down hungry, you take a few bites and suddenly your stomach says, "I'm done," long before you should be. Medically, this is called early satiety, and it's a warning your body is trying to send you. Most people think it's just stress, a bad meal, or digestion slowing down, so they don't think much of it. But let's pause for a second and consider this. Have you ever started eating, felt ravenous, and then after just a few bites felt too full to continue even though you didn't feel satisfied? That's the kind of experience early satiety describes, and it isn't normal when it keeps happening. Here's the key insight most people miss. Early satiety isn't a condition itself. It's a symptom of something underlying. In many cases, it's linked to your stomach emptying too slowly, or not stretching properly during a meal. That means your internal fullness signals are firing way too early, long before your body actually had the chance to take in enough nutrition. And let's be clear, this doesn't just make meals annoying. If you consistently feel full after very small amounts of food, it can lead to nutrient deficiencies, unintended weight loss, low energy, and even malnutrition over time. That's because your body simply isn't getting the calories and nutrients it needs. Now, some people experience this occasionally because of something mild, a stomach bug, a reaction to spicy food, or just eating too fast. But when this pattern persists, it can be a subtle sign. It could be a sign of deeper issues: delayed stomach emptying, irritation in the digestive tract, peptic ulcers, acid reflux, or other conditions that disrupt how your stomach functions. And here's where many viewers make a critical mistake. They think it's just food, or "I'm just not that hungry today." But lasting early satiety, especially if it comes with bloating, nausea, or weight loss, is something you shouldn't just shrug off. It's your body trying to tell you that the signals between your stomach and brain aren't working the way they should. So if you find yourself regularly getting full after very small amounts of food, especially when it's paired with discomfort, that's not something to ignore. Talk to a healthcare provider, because catching the underlying cause early can make all the difference in your overall health and well-being. And stick with me, because the next and final section is something most people completely overlook. A silent sign that doesn't involve how you feel physically, but something you see, and ignoring it can have consequences you really don't want to deal with later on. Now that you've seen all 7 silent warning signs, it's time to understand why paying attention to them isn't just a nice idea. It can genuinely change your life. The reality is this: your body whispers before it ever screams. Most serious health conditions don't start with dramatic symptoms. They start with subtle, low-key changes that feel easy to dismiss. A little fatigue here, a mild fever there, a digestion shift that comes and goes. These aren't random discomforts. They're your body's early alarm system, designed to catch problems long before they become emergencies. Medical research clearly shows that many diseases, including heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, can develop quietly over months or even years without obvious symptoms. These silent conditions are often discovered only when something much worse has already happened. But if you catch them early, yes, while the signs are still subtle, you have far more options and a significantly better chance of reversing or managing the condition. That's why these 7 signs you've just learned about matter. They are the signals your body sends long before a crisis hits. Long before pain, disability, or life-threatening complications appear, your body doesn't stop functioning overnight. It gives you clues day by day, step by step. It's your job to listen and act before those clues become consequences. So here's what I want you to take away from this video. Awareness gives you an edge. You can't fix what you don't see. Small changes are not always harmless. Sometimes they are early warnings. Timely action can save you from a lot of pain and suffering down the road. Ask yourself right now, have I been brushing off symptoms that might actually be my body trying to tell me something important? Because that self-awareness is the first step toward prevention. And if this video opened your eyes even a little, if it helped you connect dots in your own health or the health of someone you care about, then do me one thing. Like this video to spread awareness. Comment below which sign surprised you most, and subscribe plus hit the bell so you never miss another insight that could protect you or your loved ones. Remember, your body tries to communicate before things get serious. The question is, will you listen? Thank you for watching and stay proactive about your health. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself because you only get one body, and it's counting on you to pay attention.